गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। This is chapter 1, section 2, Dvitiya Valli. Lord Death's teaching on immortality, the comprehension and apprehension of the eternal reality. The first verse goes, Anyat shreyonyadutaiva preyah te ubhe nanarthe purusham sinitaha tayo shreyashat adadanasya sadhu bhavati hiyaterthadya upreyo vrunite. Yamaraj said, Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, he said, one is good while another indeed is pleasant. These two having different objectives chain or bind a man. Blessed is he who between these two chooses the good alone, but he who chooses what is pleasant loses the true end goal. We see that there are two paths, path of Shreya and path of prayer in this life. And everyone is presented with this choice. At every crossroads where they come across life or the life meets them, every time man is presented with these two choices. Either Shreya, take to the path of good, or prayer, take to the path of pleasant. Pleasant, the path of the pleasant gives you immediate joy. It makes you feel nice, but it is lasting very short time. Path of good may not give you the joy initially, but when chosen, it eventually gives you the best that is there in this life. And therefore, a person who has taken to the path of good, meaning the good is always good, but it may not be pleasant. You understand? Pleasant is always nice, because instantaneously you feel nice. Like, for example, when we were young, our mum used to give once a year. She'll take the neem tree. You have heard of neem tree? She'll take the leaves of the neem tree, fresh leaves, make a chutney out of it, and 1 spoon full of that bitter tasting. She'll put some salt and put some sugar to make it nice, but as much as you may put, they are very, very bitter. And 1 spoon used to go into our stomach. And we had to. And that will take care of our system for the whole year. So it is not good, it is not pleasant, it is not pleasant to the taste. You cringe even at the end, we have to, and sometimes first you used to vomit, but then she had enough ready until you don't take. But in a longer run, it is good for you. So that was the path of good, that it may not be pleasant, but if we pursue it till its end, it will certainly give us everlasting joy, everlasting happiness. Even though the path of good and path of pleasant, they both are bondages. Why? The path of pleasant is for the material world that we see here, where we want to possess and enjoy and interact lustfully with the world. And in the path of good, we want to enjoy, we want to interact, we want to lustfully enjoy the heavens. So, and there we get, as we said before, relative immortality. So both of them are bondages. One is the bondage of this world, and the other, even the good, is a bondage in the subtle world. And from Atman point of view, from the self point of view, from the witness point of view, from the reality point of view, both are bondages. But if man is given a choice, which he is given every moment of his life, he must choose the path of good rather than the path of pleasant. So this is being told here. Because every action because whenever we make a choice in our daily living, we have to perform actions. We have to make a choice at breakfast, lunch and dinner. To eat more or first time is enough. Huh? So today I controlled. Yesterday evening I had extra and I was uncomfortable. So it was pleasant to my tongue, so I went, greed, I took it, I put action. What was the action? That I want more, then I moved towards the food, brought some more. But the result was uncomfortableness. It felt good at the time, but later on it gave uncomfortableness. And the path of good would have been what? In spite of the desire for eating more, if I have curbed my desire, curbed my greed for that food, and at that moment, I could have eaten, it's going waste, and this, and so many reasons I can give why I should eat. But if I have not eaten, like today I controlled, and as a result, just perfect. Stomach is not bloated. We can make money same way. We can make money by black marketing. We can make money by misappropriating. We can make money under the table and become rich. But that money does not last. That is the path of the pleasant. Path of the pleasant will be go and buy a lottery ticket and immediately become rich. Path of the pleasant. Path of the no, Swamiji, every time we spend the tickets, money on the lottery tickets, it is not that every time we get the ticket, we are hoping that we get one. So it is not, it is path of good, we are going through troubles. But path of good will be when you live honestly, when you have the values, when you have love, you have compassion, you have got tolerance, and in this manner when you move through the life and stick to what is right when it comes to making money and using the money in the right manner, naturally, automatically such a person will gain a greater wealth of inner peace and culture. Because that inner peace, the other fellow who's misappropriating is always looking over his shoulder. Is the FBI behind me? Is the tax office behind me? But the person who has done everything right, he goes to sleep without a thought. The moment he touches the bed, gone, like all of you went today. So we must live a life of principle. We must follow a life of good, not a life of pleasure and instant gratification. Also, as compared to the path of good, the person who follows the path of good, he is unaware of the unpleasantness that comes along the way and the lack of material facilities that a rich person or the path of pleasant is having, but he certainly reaches the goal of higher good, and where happiness is a permanent state. Also, when we follow the path of or pursue the path of pleasant, that is instant gratification, we are continuously pulling ourselves down to a lower plane of existence. What is lower plane of existence? Where food, security and shelter, these are the three main concerns. And even not that, when we even become worse than animals because we want, we are lusty for the world, we eventually take birth in the wombs which are abhorred by the higher species. And contrary is true. So when we take the path of the lower, it will be the sin that we commit would be the sin not to make the sin will be the inability to make the right choice in life when life presents itself to you. That will be the sin. And that opportunity is being given to you every moment. Similarly, both the paths of the present and the path of good are in the end bondages or lead to bondage. Shreyascha preyascha manushyametah tau samparitya vivinakti dhiraha shreyo hi dhiro vipreyaso vrinite preyo mando yoga kshemad vrinite. It says in the second verse, both the good and the pleasant approach the mortal man. The wise man examines them thoroughly and discriminates between the two. The wise man prefers the good to the pleasant, but the ignorant man chooses the pleasant for the sake of his body, this body, through avarice and attachment for getting and keeping. Continuously, when we are living our life in this world, temptations are reaching us, whether we like or not. Whether the temptation is as a manner of food, it is manner of sleep, it is manner of opposite sex, it is manner of objects, it is manner of opportunities to make a quick buck somewhere. When we go around, we see stuff lying outside of homes, they have thrown it out to take, for the people to take it away. Council says, leave that, if you take it, you are a thief. But we are smarter than the council. We elected the council and we go around in the cars and, oh, that cupboard looks very nice. What a waste. It will go into the garbage bin and they will just crush it and dump it in the in the landfill. Oh, I think I can make a better use of it. And shook into the bag. This is appropriation. This type of mentality, when it is cultivated, in the long run, it is a sure destroyer of your peace. How can I get something somehow? Without spending, without paying for it. And these type of temptations, life keeps presenting to you so that you can make a correct choice. But if you have not been making a correct choice, I didn't know there are two paths, pleasant and good. Now you know. So who is wise? The wise is he when the life presents the temptations, he discriminates and he sees what is the destination that he will reach if he follows the path of pleasant in that particular case, and he chooses the path of good. And in this way, every person, every human being in his life, in her life, have to make an independent decision every moment of their existence and create or form out a relationship with the world as it is presenting itself to them moment by moment. And this way, the path of pleasant, if chosen, leads us to a dungeon of or to a room full of sorrow and pain and eventually death. Why should I say eventually death? Endless death. Because in the path of pleasant, you are dying many times over and over again. Maybe not physically, but every time you become less than what you are, which is a man, you are dying. Every time you live less than a man, you are dying. Every time your conscience says don't do that and you do it, you are dying. So, on the other hand, when you follow the path of good, even though it is, you have read the book called The Road Less Travelled? My sister used to read, I can't remember who the author was. If I get a chance, after reading that, she wrote a poem also called The Road Less Travelled. And first time when I was leaving India, I was going to Middle East to work, and at the airport she gave me an envelope, and I didn't know what was there in that, and she took a promise: you are not going to open it, you are going to open it only after you are taken off from India in the plane. So I was also keen, and once I took off, immediately they bring food and this and that, so I finished everything, and then a lot of anticipation I opened, and that poem is still there with me today. It's so beautiful. Maybe one day in the class I'll read it to you. The Road Less Travelled. And it just moved me. And that road less travelled is the path of good, where initially there are troubles, tribulations. It is not a path where everyone has walked, so the road is very nicely made. It is a road which you have to carve out as you go along, but eventually it will take you to the peak of happiness. And the wise people stick to the path of good by solid determination of theirs, whereas the ones who follow the path of pleasant, they follow the path of least resistance. Least resistance. That is what they want. In the path of good, there is resistance, but that resistance makes you chisel out a fantastic personality out of yourself and a lasting peace. But the path of pleasant is the path of least resistance, and where the lustful urges are easily satisfied. So the Lord of Death here is thinking, if we may say, that, and giving to us his thoughts that how we should live an ideal way of life when living in this world. And this way, this theory, and in which direction should we put the efforts in our life, that is being told. Some people think that that everything that is happening in our life is because of destiny. Many people appropriate their animal behavior, if I may say, to destiny. I never do like this, but I don't know from where this urge came and I just can't help it. Sometimes you go shopping and you come back with things that you didn't decide to shop. Oh, I guess it is destiny. I was destined to. No, bullshit. It was not destiny. There is nothing called destiny.
Nothing called destiny.
Nothing called destiny. Then what? Then how does it happen? Man has been given a choice. You can't say that it is destiny. Destiny, if at all we can say, is the impressions that we have saved within our subconscious mind because of repetition of certain habits again and again and again and again and again, and those habits subconsciously appear in our life, and we call, I don't know from where, I don't know how it happened, why it happened, and we appropriate that action or that event in our life which we did not do consciously to destiny. But nothing can happen in your life if the seed of it is not already there within your subconscious. Think about it. And how did it get into the subconscious? By you living a life and doing it again and again and again. Now here you are 7 days, for 7 days breakfast, lunch, dinner we are getting at the exact time that we are supposed to get. You don't have to worry about cooking, you don't have to worry about dishwashing. And after 7 days in this beautiful atmosphere, wonderful food, high thinking, no responsibility, suddenly you are thrown, so you become habituated to this lifestyle. 7 days is a long time. At the right time, someone comes and wakes you up, you are highly alert, you want to come to the class. If there was no class and if you went to rest like this in your home, you would have probably got up at 4 5 o'clock. You wouldn't have got up in half an hour, 45 minutes. You put the alarm, and when you woke up, you did not say why the alarm went off, I want to sleep more. And even if that thought came, you just brushed it aside, quickly jumped out of the bed, washed your eyes, had a coffee, and you are here fresh. Something is, and this you are doing not one class, second class, third class, you will be doing it over the week. You create a habit. And then from here you go back home and you have to cook your own food, you have to wash your own dishes, you have to, and no classes on a daily basis. And suddenly, that was so nice, I guess I am destined for this. See? So you are destined for this, that's why you have come here. You are destined for that, that is also. So you change your destiny. How do you change your destiny? By changing the impressions, by changing your interactions with the world. Nothing in your life, remember one thing, nothing in your life can happen for which the seed is already not there in your subconscious. Either collected in this lifetime or collected in the past lifetimes. That what you have collected as an impression, as a memory, is alone expressing as a desire or as a habit, an involuntary habit or a inadvertent behavior. It is not destiny. If you want to call that which you have collected as destiny, okay. But then once you accept that I create my own destiny because I created the impressions in my mind, which means past impressions created the present destiny called life for me, so present impressions will create the future. So I must change. Then I become even more alert. I become heightened aware that I must not make the mistake again. I don't want to follow the path of pleasant and go into the animalistic life. As the mind, so the man. As you think, so you become. So what are you thinking of about yourself at this moment? Are you thinking of satisfying your desires? Are you thinking about Kathopanishad retreat was very good. We got food without cooking. Is that why you came to Kathopanishad retreat? Or we came here, array food is there or not there, but we want to get the highest knowledge. That's why that yearning to know the highest knowledge, that's why we are here. So determine in your mind, what is your motivating factor? And this is just one example, but when you are moving in the world, very easily we give up the higher factor which should be our motivating force, and easily get caught up by the relationships, by the world, by the objects, by the toys, by the temptations, and start living an animal life rather than a man life. What is a man and an animal man? Animal man is he who is walking on two legs, but in here between the 2 ears, and his behavior is worse than an animal. Eating anytime he wants, sleeping anytime he wants, copulating anytime he wants. At least in the animal kingdom there is some system and time. The animal eats only as much as he wants. He drinks only as much as he wants. Doesn't kill more than what he requires to eat. Doesn't produce without the natural instinct that the cycle has put him in. But man breaks all the rules. That is animal man. And what is man? Man is worthy of being called a man if he has conquered his animal instincts. And conquering your animal instincts means conquering your desires, conquering your mind. When you become the master of the mind, that's when you are worthy of being called a man. And such a wise man, such a man follows the path of good, not the path of pleasant. Because he knows if he follows the path of pleasant, he will again go back to animal man. So, right. Why this is being told? So we recognize where we are and make the correction and move on. It is not to judge anyone, it is not to label or put a post, animal man, man, cat man, cat woman. No, not to put labels. It is for us to not to judge, with this information, not to judge other people, but to judge ourselves. Assess ourselves, where we are in respect to the knowledge that is being presented. And in this manner, the teacher says that there is no destiny beyond and above ourselves. We are ourselves the architect of our own future. Don't blame anyone else. If you are finding trials and tribulations coming in your life, accept them. Don't blame anyone. Or if you start blaming, means you want the troubles to go away. If you start blaming and you start getting disturbed by the circumstances that you are in, then you are not practicing the third step in the fourfold qualifications. What are the fourfold qualifications? Discrimination between truth and the untruth, dispassion towards the world, the sixfold qualifications, control of senses, control of mind, not getting disturbed in spite of world throwing things at it, then endurance or perseverance compared when presented with all the opposites that the world presents, faith, and when all this is done with faith, it leads to contentment. A man is always content with where he is, how he is, what he is. His only discontentment, if at all, may be the last of the four qualifications, mumukshutvan, an intense desire to liberate. So he is discontent. With regards to the world, he is content. But with regards to liberation, he is discontent. But there also he has to find contentment. Otherwise, eventually he has to give up that desire also. So here, now in the third verse, Sattvam priyan priyarupanscha kaman abidhyayan nachiketotyatrakshih naitam srungam vittamahimavapto yasyam majjanti bahavo manushyaah. O Nachiketa, the Lord of Death is saying, you have renounced all these desires and pleasurable objects of pleasant appearances, judging them by their real merits. You have not accepted the road of wealth in which many mortals sink. So here the Lord is praising his disciple, praising the young boy. Even though the Lord was trying to lead him into the life of temptation and enjoyment and wealth, but that young boy with extreme discrimination was able to give up that sensuous life and choose that which brings about the highest good. So there we see he gave up the sensuous life, and also he gave up the rulership over the entire creation, entire earth. It was very easy for him. Just the Lord has said that I will give it to you, he would have got it. Easily available. Path of pleasant. You see all the prime ministers and presidents in every country, their family members easily path of pleasant we are talking, very easily in their father's name or in their mother's name or in the politician's name, they get contracts from here, get contracts from there. In Australia also it's happening. And amass lot of wealth till the next government comes and opens the Pandora box. And even though they are showing the faults of the previous government, but they are doing the same. And this goes on. No righteousness. So, the Lord is saying, you have resisted all these temptations and found some inner strength, some power within your mind and intellect to discriminate between the real and the false. So the Lord of Death had presented him with all that which was, sensuous and shining, which would have brought him name and fame and enjoyment. But he did not choose that. He chose, I want to know that, what happens to the soul after it dies, after the body dies. He did not, that is okay, I'll think about that question afterwards. I'm for free, I'm getting all this, let me take it. No. So the Lord of Death is very happy with his disciple, and it is indeed a great blessing. Both the master feels, a teacher, a realized master feels blessed when such a student approaches him. And when such a student, when presented with all these type of distractions, is able to sift through the distractions and still focus on the ultimate goal. The teacher feels very happy. And to come across a teacher who can give the knowledge of the truth directly, the student is also very happy. So Nachiketa is happy that he is in front of the Lord of Death who can give me that knowledge. And now the Lord of Death has tested him, checked him out, and found that he is also worthy disciple to whom this knowledge can be given. And here the word used, this word was there used before also, Naitam Srunkam Vittamayim Avapto. Srunkam. Srunkam means, we told before, it was the garland and it was also the path. So here the Lord of Death is appreciative, surprised, enchanted by the sense of detachment within this young disciple of his, to whom he has given that gemstone studded garland, and this fellow has refused, he does not want it, and he has shown the disgust for the riches that he was ready to shower him with. And all these verses, if you think, he is thinking in his head with regards to with regards to Nachiketa, before actually giving the answer to his original question. All this is the inner contemplation that is going on, which will lead him to give the answer. Duramete viparite vishuchi avidyaya cha vidyeti jnata vidyabhipsinam nachiketa sammanye natva kama bahvo lolupanta. These two, ignorance and what is known as knowledge, are wide apart and lead to different ends or goals. I believe Nachiketa to be the one who is desirous of knowledge, for even many objects of pleasures have not shaken him. See, he is not telling him now, he is thinking in his head that the path of ignorance and the path of knowledge. The path of ignorance is the path of pleasant. The path of knowledge is the path of good, Shreyas and Preyas. And yet there is one more path. That is not a path, it is the path and destination both in one. And it is called Nishreyas. So, those who are following the path of pleasant, they must change to path of good, Shreyas. Those who are following the path of good, that is Shreyas, they must reach, instead of wanting to enjoy the heavens and happiness for all time, they must change the direction of that path of good to reach Nishreyas. Nishreyas is the self, the ultimate good, the absolute good. So between good and absolute good there is difference. Between happiness and bliss there is difference, isn't it? For happiness there is sorrow, for bliss there is no opposite. There is no opposite for bliss. So good and bad, good and pleasant are opposite to each other, and Nishreyas is the absolute good. So here he is saying, thinking to himself, that this path of pleasant and the path of good both are eternally different to each other, different from each other. The path of pleasant leads to ignorance, and the path of good is the path of knowledge. But that also, and this young fellow, which is Nachiketa, is the one whose desire of knowledge, because he has rejected both of them. And in this way, feeling good about this young boy, whom he seems to be fit for that great knowledge, the Lord continues. He says, Avidyayam antare vartamanaha swayam dhira panditam manyamanaha dandramyamana paryanti mudha andhe naiva niyamana yathandha. The ignorant who live in the midst of darkness but fancy themselves to be wise and learned go around and round, deluded in many crooked ways, just as blind being led by the blind. So now here, the path of ignorance, the path of pleasant. Before we talked about wealth, temptations, sensuous objects of the worlds to be procured. But here now another way is being explained, that even those people who are well versed in the scriptures, who are well versed in vomiting the scriptures, if we may say, Huh? Not teaching the scripture, vomiting the scripture. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahi. And go on. What is the meaning? Huh? What? That is vomiting. You have learned, you have by-hearted, and now you are able to reproduce. What's the difference between you and a tape recorder? I will use tape recorder there. So here it is told that these people, see in our culture also and in your, just now, it is seen that when we go to a temple or a church, we give lot of respect to the priest, isn't it? Why? He stands in the pulpit, gives the lecture. He is the man of God. Why? He is wearing the robes. Even in temple culture, he's got this mark or this mark and wearing only one cloth, and can chant the mantra, dar, 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 and he makes you come here, I'll give you Ashirvad, and bang, he gives you blessing on your back. And what do? You touch his feet and you go away. But while going away, you come across a disheveled man, totally disenchanted with the world and continuously contemplating on the truth. But he doesn't look like a normal person. Do you go and touch his feet? You are ready to give a priest whatever money he requires to do the various rituals and pujas. These priests or pandits who have been given a status of wise men by the society, but these men in every society, but these men are empty from inside. They have got like a professor of philosophy. He knows philosophy, he can repeat all the words, he can quote this fellow, that fellow, but you ask him, has he gained the goal that philosophy teaches? I don't know. No experience, only words. So there is a difference. So the person who, having studied the scriptures, whichever scripture it may be, and having no experience, goes about teaching that scripture, is an ignorant fellow. He can never reach the truth in this manner. So here it is told that the ignorant who live in the midst of darkness, such people go to darkness. They cannot come out of it because they are fooling. It's like a blind leading the blind. He himself doesn't know what he is talking about and he is teaching the people. So we go to the temple, we look at the priest because he looks all holy because of all the signage that he has on his body. And sir, please give me blessings. And he, as hundreds of people come to the temple, he says, Shubhamastu, may you be blessed. But his words have got no power. Very few priests have the power. But majority of them no power. It's just a profession for them. If you go to any temple in Badrinath, Haridwar here, they are all busy making money. They have made it into a profession. They don't even follow the rules. They drink, they eat meat. In Melbourne, I know a priest on the day of the if he's been invited to do a puja in the house, on that day he will not eat meat or he will not drink. Otherwise he eats beef also and he calls himself a priest. What hypocrisy? Such people go into darkness. Such people are ignorant and such people go round and round, meaning they keep going from birth to birth, birth to birth, sometimes in the human womb, sometimes in the animal womb, sometimes in the lower wombs, and continuous transmigration. Why? Because they are they are caught by the darkness. They haven't chosen the right way when they were given the opportunity. And that opportunity is only given when you are born as a human being. So do not waste this human birth. So if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch, unless and until a person of a man of God or a priest who is supposed to be a man of God, he has not got a spirit of renunciation, a spirit of discrimination, and he dedicates his life to purifying his physical, vital and mental being. Until then, his words will have no efficacy, they will not have any power, they will not bring about a lasting change in anyone. It's just a drab, it's just a word coming out of their mouth. Some people say, oh, I am born in a priestly family, my father was a priest. So if your father was a priest, does that qualify you to be a priest? If you are just by the name of your father, like this fellow in Melbourne, because he belongs to the priestly class, he came here in 1970s and he says, oh, I drink alcohol, I drink wine, I eat beef, I eat meat, I eat everything, but I am a priest. Why? Because I was born in a priestly class. So he has learnt a few mantras here and there and he does the puja. There is no power behind that puja. When you do puja, the peace, the joy must spread in that place where the puja is being done. But when puja is done by such people, then ignorance will be spread. Not only for them, but even those who are following them. And we can see many people like this, isn't it? Like in South Africa, there was this self-proclaimed Jesus, and I can't, in 60s or 70s, and that whole commune, he made them commit suicide. You remember that?
Jonestown, he called his
mass suicide. No, in South Africa. He was American, but God, only Americans can come up with these ideas. Anyway, yes, it is.
But you wonder what attracts them to spiritual life if their heart isn't in it. Seems strange.
Purification is not there. I am God. Remember I was telling you in the previous lecture, those couple, I am God, I am reality. This I am God has gone into the head. And that ego starts believing that it is God. Ego believing that it is God is not the conclusion. Without purification, it will lead to devilish behavior. So neither your birth nor your parentage can qualify you to be a man of God. And your Lord that says that any person who is leading the society because he is born in a high class or a priestly class, or will lead a sad destination, and that is told by Andhe naiva niyamana yathandaha, blind leading the blind. And such people deluded in many crooked ways, meaning what? That such people, they what do you call, do such actions in life by which they don't realize, but the only result of those actions in their life will be suffering. But they have an indifference towards the righteous way of life. They have an indifference towards the ultimate goal of life. For example, this person I am talking to you about in Melbourne, he does not believe in God. He is from a priestly class by birth. He says, Krishna was never born. It's just an imagination. Rama was never born. Rama is just an imagination. If it's just an imagination, then why do you do puja? Then whom are you fooling? Then why are you behaving as a hypocrite? If you don't believe it, then don't do it. On one side you want to do it also. Why? Money comes. So such people, their ego has gone into what do you call, into so deep into I-ness and minus that they can't even imagine that there can be a reality which is independent of this I and my. And hence they are caught up in their egoistic behavior of ignorance. Nasam paraya pratibhati balam pramadhyantam vitta mohena mudham ayam loko nasti para itimani punah punarvashamapadyate me. The way to the hereafter is not apparent to the ignorant man who is childish, befooled by the glamour of wealth. This is the only world, he thinks, and there is no other. Thus he falls again and again under my sway. The Lord of Death is speaking. He says, such an ignorant person comes in my way again and again and again and again. Who? The ignorant man. And who is the ignorant man? Who has never even once thought about what is the ultimate goal of life. Who has not once in his life taken to the path of good. Such a person falls in the way of death again and again. He continuously wants to earn, procure, hoard all the wealth and anything that he can put his hand upon, and thereafter do what? Sit like a snake on top of it, guarding it. And then one day death will come. He can't take anything with him. Then he keeps thinking, what will happen to my wealth? Again born in lower womb because of that thought. So, as long as such a person is continuously wanting to earn, procure and hoard the world, the worldly riches, for such people, for such ignorant people, the thought of reality is a far, far, far idea. It never even comes to their mind that there must be something more. They are far away from the reality as one can be. They can't even entertain that thought. And if at all by grace that thought does come, immediately is brushed away. Why? He is preoccupied with enjoying the world. And moreover it is told here that the one who is enjoying the world is longing for the world, wanting to possess the world. For such a person for whom the world is real, for such person the reality is very far away. All this is being told by the Lord of Death for us to assess ourselves where we are and what adjustment that we have to make within our mind and intellect so that we reach the ultimate destination. If you are thirsty for the world, you cannot be thirsty for the divine. If you are thirsty for the divine, you cannot be thirsty for the world. Simple rule. And now increase the intensity for the thirst for the divine, automatically the whatever little bit thirst for the world is remnant, that will also evaporate. So, so here it is told, in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it was told by Yajnavalkya, let a Brahmana, that means a learned person, cast aside his learning, take his stand on childhood, and then he can come to know the truth. Why? Childhood is simple, and there is lack of passion in childhood. There is simplicity in a child. There is curiosity in a child. There is wanting to learn in a child. But the lust and passion is missing in a child. So it is told that let such a person become childlike and seek the divine, the kingdom of God, which is within your grasp, which is your essential nature. And then if till here, till the verse 6, the two paths, that is the path of knowledge and good, and of ignorance and pleasure, these two have been enumerated, explained. And when a man deluded by these joys of the world or of the higher world, of relative immortality, such a person does not fall into their clutches. He alone can pursue or contemplate on the reality, but if he falls and gets deluded by them, then he becomes the slave of the death. This is the conclusion till here. So assess yourself. Now in the 7th verse, Shravanayapi bahubhiryo na labhyaha Shunvantopi bahavoyam na vidyuhu Ascharyo vakta kushalosya labdha Ascharyo jnata kushalanushishtaha. Here the Lord says, now he is speaking. He says, he the self of whom many are not able even to hear, the recipient, the pupil, many even having heard of him do not comprehend. Wonderful is a man, that is the teacher, when found, who is able to teach the self. Wonderful is the pupil who comprehends the self when taught by an able teacher. Now again, the teacher, the Lord Death, is creating a platform. He has come across a rare student in his life who has renounced everything and is focused on the ultimate reality. And the teacher, the Lord Death, knows his own capability also. So he says it is a wonderment. The word is Ascharyo Vakta Kushalosya Labdha. Ascharya, wonderment, it is wonder of wonders that the teacher, the student, wonderful is a teacher when found who is able to teach. It is a wonder of wonders that there is a teacher who is able to explain the self which cannot be spoken of. Oh my God! Reality cannot be spoken of. And yet, that will be a lucky day in our life when we come across a teacher who is able to put words and inspire us towards that ultimate reality, who is able to explain what it is, how it is, where it is, how to reach it, how to get to it. And that's a wonder of wonders that a teacher is able to speak about it. And even a greater wonder is that a student is found by a teacher that when he is speaking, the student understands. Both are a wonder, because understanding takes place in intellect, isn't it? Reality is beyond intellect. So that which cannot be spoken of is being spoken by the teacher, that which cannot be understood is being understood by the student. What a wonder it is. This is what is going on. So in this, the life is continuously presenting us with situations in life by which we can grow, which we can assess, which we can by which we can enjoy or suffer according to the impressions of the past which are continuing now. This is a written law, there are no accidents, this is going on. And if you find yourself sitting here listening to the Kathopanishad and various other Upanishads, it is not an accident. So don't take it very lightly that, oh, I had nothing to do so I came. You may feel, but life has brought you here. And you are, for last 2 days at least, living a strict life, and I don't see anyone sleeping, awake, interested, inspired, wanting to know, totally all ears, heightened awareness. It's a wonder. And it's a wonder that the teacher is also blabbering away the same thing again and again, and he is not getting tired. The truth is this, the truth is that, this, that, this, that, this, whatever is given in the scriptures, he is saying it away. But if I went, Lord, death continues, he is thinking out aloud, and and rest you read yourself, rest you work it out yourself, it's not difficult. And reality, who knows reality, you know, they say about it, but, let's go and have some ice cream. We don't do that. Here I am, as a teacher, inspired, talking about it day after day after day after day. Never get tired of talking about it. Never get tired of expanding those subtle truths that are presented in the scriptures. Ever different ways. I also wonder sometimes at myself, why am I not getting tired? Huh? Why don't I get tired? Have you thought, why don't you get tired? You can't think about me, but I may have answer for both of you. Why don't you get tired? Tell me. Why don't you get exhausted? Listening to it. What is making you pursue it for last 20 years, 30 years?
There's always a freshness about it.
Good. There is always a freshness. The truth can be caught only in the now, right? That freshness appears only in the now. It's ever new. It cannot be that truth was there before and now it is not. It is not like that. Truth is always. And when we are, that which is always, when we are talking about it, it will always keep us fresh. It keeps us in the present moment. And that's what, and you have trained yourself. Things have shifted within you over the years, all of you, because all of you are awake. All of you are inspired, all of you are smiling, all of you are eager to know where the story is going, how the Lord of Death is systematically showing what needs to be, what is the requirement in order to know the truth. And while this is being explained by the teacher, you are, I hope you are assessing yourself as it is being conveyed to you. Not, I'll take this information and I will work it afterwards. You'll forget. Right here and now the assessment must go on as the words are falling, without compromising your attention on the truth. So, it's a wonder. The teacher wonders that these students don't get tired, man. They keep coming back again and again and again and again. And they call, is the class on? And the student is also, sometimes this must have gone through your mind also, that I wonder how Swamiji keeps speaking again and again and again. So it's a wonder on both sides. That which cannot be talked of, that which cannot be understood, that about which we cannot have an experience, an objective experience, both of us are fooling each other or what? Both of us are inspired. And in that wonderment, that inspiration increases even more. So here, the teacher says that the self of whom many are not able to, the seventh one, no? Let me see what he says. Whom many are not able to hear. Out of millions and millions and millions of people, you are able to hear about it, isn't it? And what are we going to be talking? And are talking only about the truth. So you must have done some good actions in your life, past life, and in this life, because of which you have given yourself a present, unknowingly, of being exposed to this knowledge. There is no doubt about this. And second wonder is, this is first. Second is that having heard it, you are able to comprehend the topic that is under discussion. Many people understand, but as we said, sometimes they understand exactly the opposite that is being told. Some of them understand only 50% of what is told. Very few people are able to understand 100% of what is told. And that again is for you to assess, not for me to judge. Rare is such a student that among many who gets a chance to hear it, among those many who are hearing it, rare is a student who is able to comprehend it, and among many who are able to comprehend it, rare is a person who is able to realize it. This statement comes in Bhagavad Gita also, in the 7th chapter. That, as I said just now. So don't consider yourself to be, that was just, I had a good, it's a blessing for me as well as for you, that we find ourselves in this situation where we must have done something. So don't take it lightly. And what will give you this? Thinking in this manner will give you inner strength and confidence that I can make right decisions. There's nothing called destiny, we already told. So if I have created my own destiny and that destiny has expressed as this moment of being in a retreat, studying Kathopanishad in depth and many other Upanishads, then I have made some right decisions in life. Then I have made some right conclusions in which direction my life must go. And that gives me confidence that in future also I will make right decisions. I will not choose the path of pleasant. I will not choose the path of good. I will choose the path of absolute good. And that absolute good is the path of knowing the self. Intense desire to liberate. That is the path of absolute good. No compromise in it. And in this way, for example, when we want to go to a musical concert or we want to go to listen to a speech by a great master, or we want to go to a marriage, if you don't have a marriage invitation, can you enter the marriage hall? No. If you want to go to a musical concert, if you don't have a ticket, can you gate crash and go in? You may go to prison also as a result of. You may be lucky if you get in, but very rare is the case. But if you have a ticket, no tension, no fear, go grab your seat and listen to the music throughout the show, throughout that time, isn't it? Without worry. So, make yourself fit, becoming capable, becoming purified is the key that will allow you to see the show of divinity into the sanctum sanctorium, into the up to abide in the self. The key is capability. The key is intense desire. The key is purification. These all three mean the same, okay? It's just different words. So, the one who's carrying that concert ticket, he is a fit person to enter. A person who's not having a ticket, he is not a fit person. He is an imposter who's trying to trick his way in. So, if you think you are a fit person to know the truth, then based on all the information that was given, assess yourself. Have you reached the fitness that is required? The alertness that is required? The right choices that are required? Your attention and your desires, are they for the world or are they for the truth? So all these are ways of assessment. So look at that. And this way, the teacher says that only the person who's fittest. So people may teach Vedanta, teachers may teach Vedanta, but teaching does not qualify you into the realm of the truth. Okay? Only if the intense desire is there, only if absolute fitness is there, then alone you can enter the halls of the truth. And in this way, what is the capability, what is the fitness the student needs? It is the inner purity and sharp intellectual discrimination. We talked about dispassion, discrimination, 6 steps of Shatka Sampatti and intense desire. This is the qualification that is required. If you are lacking anywhere, prepare. Don't beat yourself up. Make yourself sharp. Steady mind and a steady mind which is continuously contemplating on the divine theme. And for this, a person who is not able to continuously, incessantly, without a break, able to contemplate on the reality, to such a person, lower methods are given. And what are they? They are told, chant the name of the Lord. Even do the worship of the Lord, the rituals. What happens when you do the rituals? Your mind gets purified. When the mind gets purified, such a person is told, chant the name of the Lord, and when he has chanted the name of the Lord, repeated the name of the Lord for many months and years together, the mind gets purified, and in that purified mind, automatically an urge, a desire to know the truth happens. And in this manner, the path is given, and wonderful is the man who is able to teach. And just as the students are rare, the teachers are also very rare who are able to teach this knowledge, who can deliver the goods, so to speak. And in our scriptures, the best teacher is said to be what is it called? Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. That is the word. Shrotriyam, the one who has studied the scriptures and is able to explain the scriptures in such a manner that whatever the audience is in front of him or the people are in front of him, he is able to satisfy their he is able to explain the purport of the scriptures appropriately to the type of people who are sitting in front of you. If this type of lecture I have to give in a Monday class where only 4-year-old to 13-year-old kids come, I'll have a nice sleeping session. I'll be the only one speaking, all of them will be sleeping. Speaking and sleeping. Isn't it? And if I talk to you the way I speak to those small kids, you will say, please reimburse our cost. Isn't it? So you have to be able to deliver also. So Shrotriya Brahmanishta is the one who has studied the scriptures, is practicing what is given in the scriptures in his life, is able to reproduce that knowledge when asked by a student or a devotee, and at the same time has reached the destination that the scriptures have indicated. Brahmanishtam. Brahmanishtam is abiding in Brahman. Shrotriyam, that less experience of reality, he is able to put across in a manner that people can understand. Such a teacher we must approach. There are many people we have already talked about who are very well versed in scriptures but do not have the experience behind it. There are many people who are experienced in the truth but they don't know how to explain it. So very rare are the people who have both. See, they are wonderment, very rare. So, and don't get carried away by a person who's standing on his leg or who's able to read the mind, who's able to come out of the body and present himself to you in front of you, or who's walking around on the earth naked, or who does not sleep, or who does not eat, or who lives under the earth for 14 days without breathing. These are not worthy teachers. These are just magicians, worse than magicians. Don't consider them to be, beware, it says. And wonderful is he who comprehends. Now the students' side is being talked about. The chance to hear is rare. Even after hearing, who can digest and understand, such people are rare. And after digesting and understanding, a person who is continuously thinking and contemplating on that truth, that is very rare, and eventually realizing it. Only the lucky ones, there's a thing called lucky. L-U-C-K means labor under correct knowledge. Okay. So if that is the meaning, if we take that meaning of luck, then the lucky ones alone reach the destination. From student's point of view, we are saying. So the teacher says, "Oh Nachiketa, you are. I am lucky and you are also lucky." And in this way, don't become, after having said that lucky are the people who are able to hear, lucky are the people who are able to understand, and even luckier are the people who are able to avoid. Oh, I can't understand, I can't find it difficult. And don't become pessimistic. Be optimistic, oh man. Where there is optimism, there alone inspiration is there. Where there is inspiration, there alone understanding will come. If you become sad, I don't think I will get a chance in this lifetime, gone. Never doubt, be sincere and pursue and strive stop not till you reach the goal, isn't it? Continue, keep plodding. Now the 8th verse, we'll talk about it next next class.
So very optimistic.
Narena varena prokta esha suvigneyo bahudha chintyamanaha ananya prokte gatiratra nasti aniyan yatarkyamanu pramana. The self when taught by a man of inferior intellect is not easy to be known as it is to be thought of in various ways. But when it is taught by another superior preceptor, teacher, who is one with reality, Brahman, who beholds no difference, there is no other way concerning it, the self being subtler than the subtlest and is beyond argumentation. So we'll look at that verse in the next class. Now it is 5:25. We'll meet at 6:30. 1 hour break. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Chalo. Today is Tuesday.
Yes.
Tomorrow Binti and Renuka might come. And tonight maybe one guy will come.
Okay. But they won't be coming for breakfast, Binti and Renuka?
If they come, we'll make porridge. They can have toast or something.
Okay.
But I don't know what time they'll come. I told them the class is, I'll SMS them what time the class is. What's our class? 8 o'clock.
Yes.
8 o'clock class, huh?
Oh,
In the morning.
in the morning.
7 to 8 breakfast and 8 o'clock class. I'll SMS them.
So what we do this morning?
We had 6 to 7 meditation, 7 to 8 breakfast.
Yes, yes. So what do we do?
You've forgotten?
It changes a little bit, doesn't it?
Coming in, coming back in.
1 hour.
Yes.
What time is
No, dinner is after the class.
dinner?
Soup.